here. So I will now call to order the THPRD Board of Directors meeting for March 9th, 2022. Jessica, can you please call roll?
Tia Ping.
Here.
Heidi Edwards.
Here.
Barbie Miner. Felista Monteblanco.
Here.
Alfredo Moreno.
Here.
Perfect. Do I have any action resulting from executive session today? I didn't assign it to anybody.
I will go ahead and make a motion. I move that the Board of Directors authorize the General Manager to continue with and finalize negotiations with the Portland Timbers, which will ensure all key negotiation points as those presented during executive session are included in an agreement between the Portland Timbers and the district, subject to review by the district's legal counsel.
Do I have a second?
This is Heidi. I second.
Great. Jessica, can you call vote?
Alfredo Moreno.
Yes.
Heidi Edwards.
Yes.
Felista Monteblanco.
Yes.
Tia Ping.
Yes. Perfect. And then next up, we have two awesome declarations, which I just got rid of. Give me a second. Okay, so our first is for National Development Disabilities Month. Everybody have it up? All right, so whereas THPRD is committed to serving individuals of all abilities and ensuring the opportunity to play, learn, and enjoy high-quality park and recreation facilities, programs, services, and natural areas, and
Whereas THPRD is dedicated to removing barriers to participation, ensuring meaningful access, and fostering an inclusive culture, and
Whereas THPRD is committed to creating awareness about developmental disabilities, teaching the importance of inclusion within every aspect of life, and to sharing the stories of individuals with a disability to show that a successful life is possible, and
Whereas about 1 in 6 children in the U.S. experience one or more developmental disability, and
whereas THPRD is a leader in access for all, championing inclusive services for people of all abilities to be able to fully participate in programs and activities.
now, therefore, the Board of Directors of the Tualatin Hills Park and Recreation District do hereby declare the month of March 2022 as National Developmental Disabilities Month, and do urge all those in the Tualatin Hills Park and Recreation District to support and promote this observance.
Perfect. And then we have one more. Everyone have that one up? Great. Okay, whereas the roots of National Women's History Month began in March 1857 when women from various New York City factories staged a protest over working conditions, and
whereas women of diverse backgrounds have made historic contributions to the growth and strength of our nation in countless ways, and
whereas THPRD exists today because of the pioneering vision and spirit of a female leader, Elsie Sturr, who in 1953 began a 2-year effort that led to the creation of THPRD, and
whereas because of the persistence and leadership of Elsie Sturr, a physical education teacher, mother, and wife who served on the THPRD Board of Directors for 18 years and understood the importance of dedicated park and recreation services we all enjoy today, and
whereas THPRD has become a nationally accredited award-winning provider of park and recreation services that employs creative, innovative, and hardworking women that are dedicated to our profession, and
whereas many women lead through the district from the board of directors, staff directors, senior managers, and center supervisors, and women are valued, dedicated public servants who make THPRD a better organization.
now, therefore, the Board of Directors of the Tualatin Hills Park and Recreation District does hereby declare the month of March 2022 as National Women's History Month, and do urge all those in the Tualatin Hills Park and Recreation District to support and promote the observance.
Great. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Elsie Stir.
Yes, we are all here because of her today. Okay, so we will move on next to audience time. I know we have written. Do we have any verbal?
We are not.
All right, I will turn it over to Secretary Edwards.
Yes. Tonight's written testimony is from Matt McClendon. Hello, THPRD board. This came from via email. Thank you for allowing me to write to you. I would like to inquire about the current lifeguard shortage. I saw on the news the district is looking to hire 100 individuals. When I started working with the district back in 2008, the starting wage for a lifeguard was a few dollars over minimum wage. That was a fair deal with the need to be certified, the physical fitness needed to make rescues, and the responsibility of protecting the guests that use the pool. The starting wage for lifeguards is now $14.62 in comparison to the starting wage for Taco Bell, which is $15. That's not a good deal. Locking part-time employees at 29 hours to not offer them health insurance is a cherry on top of a bad deal. The simple solution to me is to increase the wage offered to lifeguards, as many of the surrounding aquatic centers have. The Hillsborough Aquatic Center and the Tigard Tualatin Aquatic Center have allured many of THPRD aquatic staff. I've noticed these places are offering a higher wage. Why would THPRD not make it worth their while when they can only work 29 hours per week? Is it possible to offer a sign-on bonus, like $2,000 to work May to September? Many of us rely on the district for fitness and recreation. When programming is cut, it hurts our community. I implore the board to consider increasing the benefits offered to increase the allure of working as a lifeguard. Respectfully yours, Matt McClendon. Thank you, Mr. McClendon, for your testimony tonight. Doug or any staff want to respond?
You bet. I think Sabrina has some prepared comments.
Good evening. Sabrina Taylor-Schmidt, Interim Recreation and Aquatics Director. Matt is correct in his statements, and we're aware of the challenges, as it is a very competitive market out there right now for part-time staff. THPRD is looking at what we can do to add a cost of living increase before the summer to help close that gap between some of our local competitors in the lifeguard game of Tigard and Hillsborough and Portland. We've also done some really progressive things by removing the fee to become a lifeguard and trying to reduce those barriers so we can increase access or increase our lifeguard staff. And I have some exciting news. We have over 20 people registered for our spring break class, a few spaces left. So we're just taking all these small steps to try to close that gap for lifeguards. And we had 22 complete the lifeguarding class this winter term. So it's slow, it's steady, but we are making those steps.
Lisa, do you have a question?
Yeah, just really quick, and this can be a follow-up email. Sabrina, I'm curious, like, what's the average person that participates in the lifeguard class? Is it a 17-year-old? Is it a college grad, like a student in college? Like, educate me.
Yeah, to get the accurate data, I would have pull because I haven't been on deck to see those classes. I think historically we see, that teenage to young college, but we are seeing some difference. But I'd love to pull that demographics and kind of see where we're at right now for those classes and get back to you.
I'm curious, but no rush. I know you got a lot on your plate. Thank you.
Happy to.
Great, thank you. And thank you for our testimony from the public. So we will move on to committee liaisons. Anybody want to go first? I'm going to go alphabetical, Alfredo. Anything?
There we go. I could not find my mouse for some reason. It's always something. let's see. I wanted to highlight from the the Tolton Hills Park Foundation that State Representative Lisa Reynolds is our newest board member, giving the foundation two state reps on the board, along with Maxine Dexter. So that's always great. And we had a robust chat in Parks and Facilities about THPRD's work with City of Beaverton to gain oversight of the community gardens, and you should be hearing from the committee there. But good understanding and enthusiasm for that. And let's see, I also wanted to quickly take this time, a little bit off subject, but on subject. Tomorrow I'm flying to Phoenix for the funeral services for my nephew. 10 days ago, committed suicide at age 23. And so I just wanted to thank everyone from all corners of the district who has a role. I'm trying to keep my composure, but who has a role in kind of reaching out to kids of all ages, and those especially who might be just on the fringe and just might need that little bit of mentorship and connection, and making them feel like part of something and they have some hope. So kudos to all of you. You may do it in small ways with a little smile or anything like that. But before I start to get too emotional, and I'm sorry for the person who has to follow me on that note, but I just want to thank everyone throughout the district who does that work to connect with people in some small way. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Alfredo. Felicia, you're next alphabetically.
Hugs, Alfredo. Big hugs. I know we've all been busy from budget meetings. The next nature and trails meeting isn't until next week, so I don't have an update on that. Director Moreno and I were excited to meet with a potential gubernatorial candidate yesterday, Tina Kotek, organized by Mayor Beatty, opportunity to share a little bit about some of the work we've done around SDCs, and she was very impressed, but also sharing some of the future work we want to do and the opportunities that exist in Beaverton and how it's different here. We collaborate and we have tough conversations and we lift each other up, and that there's a lot of new leadership in the region, which is exciting too. Then regarding preschool for all, so phase 1 has been wrapped up. There is policy is the wrong word, but like a plan, a pre-K for all plan. And now it's the next step, which is how's it going to get funded? How are folks going to get support? I think this is definitely moving into a very political realm, which is fine. We as board of directors are allowed to do that. And so I think there'll be some more opportunities to engage more heavily in that, and I'll keep everyone up to date. That's all. Thank you.
Heidi?
Yes, thank you. And heartfelt condolences, Alfredo. It's a tough world out there for kids and young people, and yeah, I feel you. I was very impressed with our budget committee meeting that we all got to participate in, and very thrilled that Elizabeth Edwards has been nominated and is our new chair for the budget committee. So again, kudos and thank you to those folks who volunteer for that committee and for all of the committees that we have throughout the district. I had a brief meeting with Eileen from our foundation just to touch base about work in the foundation, how things are going, the great news of our new foundation board member, and just sort of helping to support the foundation moving forward. There's some great work going on there, so always continuing to move that forward. The pension committee met on the 23rd. There was really great news at the end end of last quarter, so that end of 2021, things were on the uppity up, which was great. But then we came into January and things sort of started go down. So it's interesting, how the markets work and how that impacts, the investments with the pension and all. But a very good meeting. We did with Jeff Knipp and Joelle. There was some minor rewording to the investment policy. So we went through that, just keeping it really simple there. Matt Larrabee presented to us. And for some of us, we've seen a similar presentation by him before. So he presented to us just with respect to recommendations for the funding plan. And so that was received well. And we will be meeting again in 3 months. So after the end of this quarter to see sort of how things are for us. But overall, a very positive meeting. And again, volunteers on, do we have volunteers on that? No, we don't. We have staff and board. But even to have employees involved in that, thank you for your work with that. And I had the opportunity to finally see the archery field we have at PCC Rock Creek. How fabulous is that? I wanted to get the bow and arrow and go out. So I just was delighted. I used to walk around there all the time, but since the pandemic, I haven't been out there forever. So it's really cool to see, and just a fun new discovery that I wanted to share that I know not a lot of people know about within our district. So let's go get our bows and arrows.
Thank you, Heidi. I don't have much more to add. Everybody kind of touched on everything. I did want to shout out, I know Heidi shouted out the budget committee volunteers, and but I also want to make sure to highlight our wonderful staff for stepping in and doing so much work, especially when we had CFOs leave and just the constant overturn of stuff. So thank you. I mean, we haven't missed a beat, or at least we haven't felt like we missed a beat. I'm sure you guys have felt it. But thank you, staff, for doing all that you've done to really keep our district going and moving forward and everything like that. So thank you.
May I interject on that note?
Go for it.
And congratulations to the hiring of our new CFO. So that's very exciting. I don't want to steal that message. So Doug, I'm hopeful that you or one of the team is going to make that announcement. We're really excited to have him on board.
You bet. Well, I can add because we've done some level of engagement, in terms of announcement, but there'll be more to follow. But Jared Isaacson from City of Tigard, and I got a nice note from the City of Tigard manager shortly after Jared accepted. So I have apparently one. Well, he said we're okay, but I've had this happen before in the past. But he was assistant finance director for the City of Tigard. So I think we got an up and comer, and we're excited about that. He and I are going to meet later this week. And his start date is not till the end of March. But we are very excited for sure. Thank you.
Yay. Okay. Next up is consent agenda. Do I have a motion? Anybody want to make a motion?
I move that the board approve the consent agenda as submitted.
This is Heidi. I will second that.
Great. Jessica, can you call roll?
Please, Monteblanco.
Yes.
Heidi Edwards.
Yes.
Alfredo Moreno.
Yes.
Tia Ping.
Yes. Great. And then now we will go to unfinished business with South Cooper Mountain Heights Park concept plan.
You bet. Gary Keck, I think, will lead the discussion.
Yeah, I'll do a quick intro here. Thank you for having us tonight. My name is Gary Keck. I'm the Design and Development Manager, and with me tonight is Tim Bonnen, who's been our project manager on this in this project, and he's been doing a great job leading us through it. Staff are here tonight requesting the board approval of the preferred concept plan for Heights Park located in South Cooper Mountain. This is an SDC credit project that the district's been coordinating with Lennar Northwest, their developer. And what I'd like to do is I'll pass it over to Tim, and he's going to go over the plan with you, and then we'll open it up for questions. So, Tim.
Yes, thank you, Gary. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me here tonight. So let's go to the next slide, please. The Heights Park is located north of Shoals Ferry Road, east of Southwest 175th, just west of Shoals Heights Elementary School in Beaverton. Next slide, please. The proposed site, shown here in red, is categorized as in the park's functional plan as a neighborhood park and is 2.63 acres in size. Next, please. Shown here, the proposed park and community trail will be designed and constructed by Lennar Northwest for system development charges. And again, the red box or square in the middle is the park, and then the orange dashed line running pretty much north-south through the Heights development is the community trail that they propose to build. It runs along the edge of a natural area, but the natural area will be owned and maintained by the HOA. Next slide, please. The existing sloped site will be raised up and leveled with a series of retaining walls on the south and west side. This will make the land relatively flat to maximize use and make the amenities within the site easily accessible. Heights Park is simple by design with an internal path, play area, THPRD furnishings, and a wide open lawn area for passive recreation. This park will deliver immediate recreation opportunities for incoming homeowners. Next slide, please. During the design process, we worked with Lennar's design consultant to incorporate our vision action plan. Most applicable goals are welcoming and inclusive, play for everyone, and accessible and safe. Next slide, please. With SDC developer projects, the developer is responsible for public engagement. Just this past February, Lennar's consultant, OTEC, held a virtual meeting to introduce Heights Park to the community. Staff attended the meeting, and there were no concerns about the proposed park. In addition to their efforts, we'll be taking engagement a bit further later this year by asking the public about the types of play equipment they would like to have for this park. And we'll also be looking to name several proposed developer parks in South Cooper Mountain that the district will be taking ownership of in the near future. And so the equipment shown here in option A and option B are what the developer is proposing for the park. And we will put that on a survey shortly for the public to choose. Next slide, please. In closing, the proposed park will be built by Lennar Homes in exchange for SDC credits. The project is expected to start in fall 2022. As mentioned earlier, staff is requesting board approval for the preferred concept plan of Heights Park located in South Cooper Mountain. With that, we'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any of my board members have questions? No. I don't see Heidi. Oh, I don't see your picture, Heidi. Okay, then I will ask questions as usual.
Right.
So especially since this is, the month of that we just recognize disabilities and stuff like that, that the concept plan that you showed, none of the swings they're just regular swings. Is there a plan to put one of those bigger swings for other children? I don't know what the official name is called for those kinds of swings.
There are different types of swings that are available. Yeah, there's the double swings. There's swings where it's more of a chair where somebody can be strapped into. They may not have the mobility to sort of or strength to hold themselves up. There's also one that we've used at Mountain View Champions Park, which is more of a disc swing, where you could put one or two children on together so they could play together. So we kind of look for those kind of opportunities too. So if you would like, we can look into a different type.
Yeah, I guess, especially since we've just declared this and we've said this is an access for all. I don't know if you guys know specifically, but what in this specific playground are we including for people facing disabilities? Do we know?
Yes, well, with this park in particular, I spoke with the playground designer. So we look to add different types of equipment that have, like we did, remember, for Blackbird Farms, play equipment that can be played on at sort of at a seated level. So in both those concepts, there were like the mini jungle gym bars where, again, people may not have the lower leg strength, but the upper body strength to sort of pull them through things. There was also one with like a seesaw where you can place children on or somebody in a mobility device can move onto and then rock back and forth on. So we've worked with our playground reps in the past about providing opportunities for people for all abilities, and again, on that line, things that can be reached at chair level or at low level, so there's other opportunities for play.
Okay. Are we able to add at least for that swing to make sure that there's one?
We could, yes, I can look into that, certainly. We
Okay.
could add that even into the survey as well.
Yeah.
To look at different types of swings that people would like to have.
That would be great.
Okay.
And I don't know if in our future surveys, if we always have, if we can, I don't know, throughout the district, keep a checklist of what we have and have, right? Because I don't want a person who's facing disability to go to the same park and still only have, certain things that are level for them to have right? Like then the park is kind of the same everywhere you go. But if at every park we have something designed and that we keep a checklist of like, well, this is a little bit different in a little way that's not offered somewhere else, so that as most of us able bodies are able to go to different parks and experience different things. And so I would like that to create that opportunity for people facing disabilities also, that they aren't seeing the same types of things when they go to a park, but that they get that same chance to experience, right? Like if they want to go up the ramps, they can go to Champion Park and actually be on the physical structure through their wheelchair. If they go to this park, then there's, I don't know, some swing that lifts them up or something like that, and just provides a different opportunity for that. Felicia, did you have a question along that line, or should I finish? You can go first.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, because poor Doug, because he's been hearing from me a lot about swings. I just want everyone to be able to get on a swing.
Right? Yeah.
And that means big bodies, little bodies. So thank you to you.
You're welcome. Yeah. So and I think the swings is, especially as we develop new parts, like that should, I think, always be a consideration, because I mean, even able-bodied people utilize those swings. So to make sure that we include everyone when we go to those parks, especially since all kids love swings. So yeah. And then
adults like swings too.
Yeah. My other question is for what size space is this open? It might just be me, but I'm not really a huge fan of open lawn space. Again, I'm going to bring it up because I just feel like it's underutilized for what it's supposed to do. Like, yes, like are we planning on eventually, like, is this going to be a place where maybe we can do movies in the park? Is this a place where theoretically we can put a soccer field on? Or is there a reason why we are saving this much space? Or can we not like put in a community garden or just add a bunch of trees that people can walk through and just enjoy? And so that if the space is just underutilized, at least it's doing something for, our critters and stuff. Because it doesn't seem like there's that much. I know you said the HOA is handling, that little piece of nature space, but in that area, it looks like, just by that vicinity map, it just looks like buildings, right? And then our space is right there. So I'd like to see more greenery if we can. But if you guys have a specific reason why we're saving that space, then I'm all for it.
Yeah, we were, again, the original design, this started, back in like 2019 or so by the first developer, just to put a park in. They were trying to build ahead or put in the amenities ahead of the community coming in. And the amount of money they had at the time to invest in the park, they were looking for more of a simple design of a park. In Lennar as well, they're looking just to develop something a little bit quicker with not too many things to it, that they can get the park built in a relatively short time for the community. But we can certainly look into adding more trees even around the periphery more, so there's more shade along the pathway. And even Gary and I were talking earlier about this, of even adding more trees around the play area itself.
Perfect.
So we have some more natural shade closer to the area. So those are some things we can bring back to the developer as well.
Yeah. I mean, like if it's like a field space like the size of a and like that's the plan eventually, like I love that. But if there's if I feel like we don't need access a lot of open spaces. Like I know you need to throw a football and stuff like that, but that seems like a lot, like so much space we can utilize for like trees and all that kind of stuff. So, and yes, I love the ideas of if we are going to plant more trees to put it around the playground, because like I said, families use that a lot. And I don't want to criticize everything, but so I want to give you guys a shout out. I love the pathway around the whole park, because then people can walk that park. So and then the pathway, I think that's sidewalk, so it's like a whole perimeter right around the whole park. So love that. And yeah, that's all I have. Anybody else?
Like just to respond to that, Tia, real quick.
Yeah.
Tim, thinking about the scale of this, the whole site is like 2.6 acres.
Right.
And a soccer field itself is 2 acres. So
Okay.
this open space is not as big as we may be thinking. And
well, like a real soccer field, or are you talking about like a kid's soccer field?
I'm talking, if you think of HMT Field 2, so that's 2 acres about.
Okay.
So this would be more, Tim, you'd have to correct me if I'm wrong here. Is this more like the multi-sport court at maybe a couple of multi-sport courts, pickleball courts, like we just presented last month, or?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, it would be a small soccer field. So it would be like a youth side if you think of maybe more at Mountain View. We have that U10 field.
Yeah, which is fine if that's the intention of why we're saving that space. But if we're not, if we don't foresee using that space like to build a soccer field that eventually that we would use, for our youth or whatever, then I would rather that we fill this space to do something for nature and for even, I mean, it's not even just for the critters and stuff, it's for just human beings in general to have more trees and shade and all that kind of stuff. So, Heidi?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Gary, did you have something more to say?
Well, I was just going to mention that, looking at the entire community of South Cooper Mountain, we don't have a lot of park spaces yet, right? We've got a lot of small mini pocket parks that are coming through, and the developments around this area, you get apartments, and you get these lots are pretty small, so a lot of people don't even have yards in this area. So that's another thought that we've been looking at with this piece in particular, is having some green space, because we don't have it. We don't have the access to the high schools like we used to for that. The high school sports come first, obviously. But with the lack of 2-acre sites right now down there, we think this is going to be nice open space to kick a ball, like you said, or picnic. And I think the nice piece about this park every park that we hear a lot of is the circular path that goes around the park.
Yeah.
So you can use, we're utilizing the sidewalks on 2 sides, and we put the interior there. So I think it'll be a popular park.
Heidi?
Yeah, well, I was just going to mention what Gary mentioned. This is home upon building. So I'm happy to see that we have some open green space there, and knowing that we have some amazing, large nature park space and other larger parks around with that tree space. So I can foresee us, whether it's this park or any other, to sort of see where it goes and what the community does do with it. And if they're not doing with it what we'd hope or intend, then that's where we reevaluated it as well. But yeah, it's a very dense housing community. So I did have one quick question. May seem really silly, but I'm curious about the black vinyl coated chain link fence. First of all, why black vinyl coating? I think it looks better personally. But then also, do we have means by which we determine the need for fencing? Are there certain parameters that we use?
So yeah, we do for our playgrounds. So if we have a playground within 100 feet, I think it is, of a street, we'll have some sort of barrier in between it.
Okay.
But I do know, and we're going to be going through land use shortly with this. I believe is it Barrow? What's the one to the north of this? Mountain View? Can't think of the name of the street. That one is a main collector, and they require to have a fence along a main collector, some sort of barrier.
Okay.
So typically we would keep the the north and the east side open, with the player is so far away. But I think they're going to require us through land use to have fencing because adjacent to a major roadway.
Okay, that's really helpful for me to understand because, fencing, I know there's reasons for it, but when you can do away with it, it's nice too. So,
Certainly.
and can you tell me like the black vinyl coated
Mhm.
chain link? Does it just wear better, look better?
It does look better because your other choice is just plain galvanized fence, and it's that gray, and the gray over time gets more dull looking.
Okay, that's what I
So it does
figured.
look better, I think, in a park to have the black.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you for the
Sure.
clarification.
I have one last question. Is there a community garden anywhere around in this area of South Cooper Mountain?
That's a good question.
Not yet, Tim, and not that I can think of, not yet.
Is there not a reason why this couldn't be a potential location for it with the open space at all? Or I don't know how we determine where community, especially if we're talking about people not having backyards and those kinds of things, right?
Sure. So this is Aisha Panis. I'm the Park Services Director, and this is a newly developing area. So I think this is one of the first parks that would potentially come online. You've heard about the other ones at Blackbird Farms, but we do not have community gardens super nearby to this area. I think what this represents is the park that the developer is willing to build in exchange for the credits, and so that's representative of the amenities you see here. The option that we have moving forward is going through a community-based effort to pull in information once there are community members in this area. Right now, there's no neighbors to speak with. So what we'd be looking for is providing this great opportunity for people to have a place to recreate when they do arrive. But what we imagine is that there will be an opportunity to discuss potential for additional amenities, but once the neighborhood has arrived. Right now, we don't know who we would ask for that information, but we're looking at that future in this particular area, but also as just part of our community garden program as we grow it, as we're looking to provide more opportunities, because it is a high demand program. And you'll get to hear some more about the work we're doing in May when we come to talk with you about this. But that is something that we may independently pursue. But again, I think we really want to hear from the neighbors in this area. They may not want a community garden. They may want some other amenity. And given the size of this particular site, this isn't a place where we can do many different options. So we'll have to speak to the community, find out what they're looking for, and look to do that sort of work.
Sounds good. Any other questions, Alfredo?
Yep, just some quick comments. Really appreciated the information about the housing density. As somebody who is in the buyer's market myself, looking at the possibility of townhomes and sort of densely packed housing, having a park like this within a short walk of a potential house like that would be absolutely essential. So to allow our kids to be able to run around and do whatever they need to do. So that really kind of connects the dots there for me in terms of open lawn and, all this stuff. So what else? I was just going to make the quick comment that at least from my empirical evidence, any sort of pendulum is fun for hours for young kids and old kids alike. So I would echo my peers. If we're able to put a swing that accommodates people with multiple abilities, that'd be great. Everyone can use it when it's there. And I would just put a humble plug for down the road to always keep the idea of splash pad water feature type thing in mind, based on community feedback. That, obviously the expense is different there, but I think there's a little bit of a dearth of these throughout the district, and as our climate continues to heat up, and having an opportunity to do that and splash around on hot days is really pretty valuable. So thanks a lot for all the information. Really appreciate it.
Does anybody want to make a motion?
I'll make
Or-
a motion. Absolutely. I just want to say all the talk about swings has me thinking about tire swings. Whatever happened to tire swings, right? I would like to make a motion though. I move that the Board of Directors approve the preferred concept plan for Heights Park located in South Cooper Mountain.
This is Felicita. I'll second.
Jessica?
Alfredo Moreno.
Alfredo, I don't think we got you.
Sorry about that. Yes.
Felicita Monteblanco.
Yes.
Heidi Edwards.
Yes.
Tia Ping.
Yes. Great. Thank you so much, Gary and Tim.
Thank
And
you.
then now we will move general manager's report.
You bet. I think Sabrina starts us off.
Always waiting for the clicking to work at the same time. Good evening. My name is Sabrina Taylor-Schmidt, and I am the Interim Recreation and Aquatics Director. Tonight, I'm here to provide updates on after school as well as spring registration. Next slide, please. As you know, THPRD offers the after-school program Thrive at 4 of our THPRD locations and at 1 BSD site. We provide care to about 20 schools, and we have up to 450 spots when we're at full operations for that program. We have heard from the community that affordable childcare is a top priority for them and their families. As you can see in this shot here, that we are committed to that, and we do that with our tuition of $350 a month. That includes care Monday through Friday, and includes 4 no school days. And so our tuition next term is $350, and the rates you see are current rates for programs that are also offered in the Beaverton School District. And we are by far one of the most affordable cares out there, and we're committed to that. Please, next slide. Staff have been working on recommendations to expand access to affordable care. Step 1 is to expand financial aid. This will create an immediate impact for our families. It will allow us to maximize THPRD resources. Currently, the program is only 50% full. With expanding our financial aid, we will allow new families access to childcare. We feel the financial aid program will put THPRD in a strong position for future partnerships as well as grants. The second step would be to expand to offsite locations. As we've filled our capacity, we have a commitment to work with BSD to expand that care. We already have to have discussions about the feasibility to expand to 5 Beaverton School District sites. Next slide. Our next steps will continue to have conversations with our community partners, such as Beaverton School District, Washington County, and the City of Beaverton. We want to work on funding solutions to reach our goal of $396,000 that would allow us to offer that financial aid for up to 200 students. And that is it. And so next slide, please. This is some fun stuff. Great news to share about spring registration. So we had spring registration a few weeks ago. On this chart, you can see some comparison of 2019, which was our last full term of spring registration. We didn't hold a spring registration in 2020, and so then we did programming last spring with limited offerings. So we, when you're looking at this chart, we have not even started spring term yet, so we know that we're going to continue to see registrations come in as people sign up for more classes and we're able to secure instructors for programming. But one of the things that's worth noting is we also anticipate an additional $413,000 in our tuition program, so between the Thrive and the preschool programs. So that really closes the gap and gets us closer to what it looked like in spring of 2019. We're working hard to improve and address staffing shortages, as I discussed earlier, that have hit our aquatics and some of our specialty sports programs the hardest. But we have seen a recent increase in applicants and interest in applying for these programs. We are feeling very positive about spring term registration and the steps we continue to move towards traditional operations. Next slide, please, because I will now take your questions.
Anybody have questions? No. I have a question. Oh, Heidi has a question. Heidi can go
I
first.
have just one.
Yeah.
So tomorrow is an early release day,
Yeah.
but it's on a Thursday. How does that impact Thrive and the after school programming? You know about those days well in advance.
Most of them. BSD did add a bunch. Just I think that tomorrow is one of the ones that they released.
Right.
We did let parents know that we will adapt and add and care for those days. So we plan for 4 of the grading days, and there are additional days. So then what we try to do is balance out extra care at the different facilities. So if there was a non-school day, and some of them, which I find mind-boggling as a parent to try to keep track of, but they're different for different schools. So, so what we try to do is offer different full day care options at different sites, depending on how many schools are going to be out on the same day. So it is a little bit of a puzzle, but we do try to fill that gap for parents.
Well, I need to commend you and your team for that because I was thinking about the puzzle pieces and of all the locations and sites and all of the last minute changes that we often have to do. So thank you for taking it as it is and being part of that puzzle.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Sabrina, I had a question. So I know it based on your chart about how many registrations there were. Do we have like a percentage that, because we have lower registration, but we're also offering not, I'm assuming offering not as many classes. So is there like a percent participation that we have? Is it much lower than of what we have to offer? Does that
Let
make
me
sense?
phrase that question back to you and
Yeah.
see if I'm totally understanding it. Is our participation rate lower than what it was in 2019 than what it is now?
Yes.
No, we see a high interest in our classes. And so, I mean, we were high before, but we're still seeing a high interest in our classes. So people are ready to come back. I was told today we have over 1,300 people on a wait list for gymnastics classes at Cedar Hills alone. That's another one of those kind of difficult classes to fill because you need to know how to do a somersault and a round off and those things that I'm not that familiar with, and teach them safely. So I don't have the exact participation percentage for you, Tia, but I could look into that. I believe I
No, that's okay. I was just trying to
Yeah.
figure out, is it that the public is not ready, or is it that just we are not offering because we don't have the capacity to offer, and so if we got the staffing and all of that kind of stuff, we probably would. Not that number is low. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel very optimistic. The public is very interested and ready to register and participate in programs. Today in our staff meeting, just the little steps of moving towards normalcy. We're having some egg hunts this spring. We're having some activities that we haven't had in a while. People are ready to come back. We are, increasing our staffing. We're having that. It is training piece component. You know, it's one thing to get them in the door, but then you also want to have the quality programs that people expect in our sites. So there's a little bit of a lag time there, but we are getting there. And some of our centers, their numbers look pretty close to pre-COVID, especially
Great.
considering their hours of operations or their days of the week are not the same. So
Yeah.
they're doing really great.
Perfect. And then do we anticipate, as far as like our summer programming, to be more normal to 2019, or are we still anticipating with the staffing shortage and stuff that our programs are going to be down? Do we
We
know?
are going to continue to make steps towards normalcy. It's not going to be the same. We are
Okay.
still challenged with staffing, but we're getting there, and things are starting to feel. Most of the centers are offering more. They all actually are more robust programs than we did last summer.
Great.
And more all-day programs, you know, and it's trying to anticipate that need. What we saw last year was a real shift from our all-day programs to more half-day programs. So we're just trying to still navigate that too. What childcare do people need, and where are they at? But again, the staff feel really optimistic with their hiring, and we've started our summer recruitment and reach out to former employees. So we're feeling pretty good.
Great. Perfect. Thank you. Heidi?
I really hope I didn't miss this in an email or conversation somewhere. I have to ask about masks as in the facilities, and knowing that the governor's mask mandate, that there's those changes. Do we have some, and maybe this is for you, Doug, do we have some guidance around that? And
Yeah.
what are we telling the community here?
Yeah, we've already made multiple different announcements, but I'll let maybe Holly, if Holly wants to step in on that one.
My dog is just making a noise. I apologize for that. Yeah, we are going to be lifting the requirement that you wear a mask and move to mask optional on Saturday. Sorry, Sherman has got an itch or something. They have an announcement going out. We'll have signs on our doors Saturday. We'll have the employee update out tomorrow and formal announcement out to the public tomorrow. But we're matching what most agencies are doing and making masks optional to wear indoors starting Saturday.
Good to know. Thank you. And sorry if I didn't keep up on all of that. I think there's so many different agencies, large organizations doing different things. So I don't know who's doing what at this point, but thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Sabrina.
Great. Well, thank you very much. And I believe Holly is up next.
You bet.
Yes, please, Sherman will calm down. Okay. So good evening, members of the board. I'm Holly Thompson, your communications director, and I am joined tonight by the fabulous Lulu Ballesteros, our cultural inclusion specialist, to give you an update on some changes we implemented to one of our favorite programs, Centro de Bienvenida, and then we went live with those changes this spring, had some awesome results, and want to share that with you. So on the next slide, we're just going to talk for just a second about meaningful access. This slide might look familiar. It's a slide that we shared with you when we gave an update on our language access policy development. But as we were working on language access, we started to really think about that phrase, meaningful access, and what does meaningful access really mean, right? And we define meaningful access for THPRD to mean that we want to ensure effective and timely service delivery to our English language learning community. It should not be an impediment. It should not be a detriment. You should not have inferior service because English isn't your first language. And so when we put that in the context of our registration process, it's really hard to picture how we can provide meaningful access to our English language learning community at 8 a.m. on Saturday, right? And so if you think about like the traditional picture that we show of equity versus inequality and helping meet people where they are for what they need, you know, how do you have a fair chance to navigate that Saturday morning 8 a.m. crunch of registration time if English isn't your first language? And that really made us think, boy, we want to take a second look at Centro de Bienvenida, which is relatively new to the district still, right? We started it in 2018. We're really proud of it, but we're a learning, we're a growing, we're an innovating organization. So we thought, how can we take a second look at Centro and ensure that we're developing meaningful access to registration with Centro de Bienvenida? So Lulu's going to take it away and walk through some changes we made on the next slide to spring registration.
Hello, everybody. Lulu Ballesteros with Cultural Inclusion with the Communications Department. And what did we do differently for this spring registration at Centro de Bienvenida? First off, first strategy, moving from a registration day to a full week of assistance for the selection of classes and activities. And as Holly said, very importantly, before opening day. The second strategy is day and evening times. We offer the options of people going in that week, Monday to Friday, 5 to 7 p.m. But all those patrons that were maybe working, could not make it at that time, had the option of asking for an appointment, 8 a.m., 11 a.m., lunchtime, whatever was their preference. The other key point was personalized attention. So talking about meaningful access, staff had more time and volunteers as well to talk about the classes and activities they were looking for, but those other resources as well, including financial aid. This is a nature and trails map. Have you been to the nature center? They have all these activities. If they're very focused on one sport or one center, hey, we have these other sports and these other centers. Many times people did not know, even closer to their home. Job opportunities, volunteering, events like the free yoga and meditation activity we have at Cedar Hills this coming weekend, Holy event, sign up for receiving emails, bilingual emails each month, et cetera, et cetera. The list is long. And then last but not least, our partnerships, very important. For example, for spring, we partnered with the Migrant Education program and the pre-K program from Beaverton School District. And they have access to a grant. And with this grant, they asked their families to come in and sign up for as many classes as they wanted to sign up for springtime. So that was very meaningful as well. Then on our next slide, what are the results? How did it go this Spring Centro? Well, amazing numbers, 95 households served. That's 186 increase in the number of people that we got to serve households. Then one very impressive amount is the 364 classes that people were able to sign up for. That's 283% increase. Then an 80% increase for financial aid, which is a great number as well. And this is our measure to ensure that meaningful and equitable access that Holly was talking about. Imagine if done on a Saturday, we couldn't have this time with patrons and they wouldn't have access to those activities that they preferred. It was more of a getting what was left by 8:30 or 9 by the time I got there. And then on our next slide, maybe the most important, more than perceptions and thoughts and ideas, is about those testimonials, the things that the community shared. First one that comes to mind is mom finding out that one of her sons, she always got activities for two of her daughters, but her son, she didn't know that we had the adaptive sports center at the AC, or that he can go to adaptive swimming and Beaverton Swim Center. We also had another very big family. It was 4 kiddos and the mom and dad. They always go to lakes and rivers during summertime, and they were always so nervous and preoccupied because none of them knew how to swim. So they all signed up for classes. So the stories go on and on and on. We shared with Holly, wish we would have a camera with us so you can capture all those very special moments with patrons. And with this, we go to our next slide, and I leave it up to Holly to share more on next steps and comments.
Well, we just want to again reaffirm our commitment to the district values, and thank you to our board of directors for really nailing those down and helping us lead the organization with those values. We see Centro de Bienvenida as one of our key strategies in the communications division to ensure that we're leading with equity and following through on our commitment to community vision and honoring our district values. We know that we're also honoring a budget priority for the fiscal year coming up of making sure that we're rebuilding our programming with an emphasis on our access for all work. So as we move forward, spring registration wasn't even 2 weeks ago, and we said, that's it, we're done, we've got our new model. So we're doing it again for summer, and we're gonna continue to roll it forward with a week long of Centro work. It is a ton of work. It is a ton of work. And because we had some complications with our registration system, it cost us a few hundred hours, no joke, of extra staff time work. And I really want to express my gratitude to Lulu, to our new financial aid specialist, Juan Calles, to Lisa Wentworth, who have done hundreds and hundreds of hours of just, I'm exaggerating the multiplying the hundreds, but it just felt like that, of off the book spreadsheet work to manage this. So a big thank you to our friends in the IS department, Clint, and in the recreation division, who are working to help us with some system changes so we don't have to do this off the books work again. And we can use our technology to make our lives easier. We're also strengthening our partnership with the recreation division and welcoming Kristen Smith and Keely to be part of our core Centro team and really working to co-produce Centro de Bienvenida moving forward between communications and recreation. And as always, we're committed to continuous process improvement. So we're continually evaluating how it went. We're listening to our families and our partners and finding ways to improve Centro and make it even better. And now we welcome your questions and your feedback as well.
Heidi?
Way to go, team. Like, I'm tearing up here because this is huge, amazing work. And this is near and dear to my professional life. So I relate to it. And thank you for all the work. It is very time, staff intensive, but this is part of the work we have to do is spend more time with the people in their neighborhoods and really think outside of the box of offering that we're not doing preferential registration, but some additional supports. I would suggest if there's opportunity, and I know this is a big ask, knowing how staff intensive this is, that we really look at a means by which to grow our staff that supports this, but also I know a week is a lot, but if there's an opportunity for us to think about this as this is year-round work that we do, and I'm not putting this on you right now but I'm thinking there are opportunities for us to be reaching out and having these conversations. And I know, Lulu, you do, Holly, your entire team does this really year-round in many respects. Like, what are we? Who are we? What can you do? But if we can have some dedicated folks to really hone in on this, I see it being just a very an opportunity where the return on investment would be huge. So thank you for your work. I'm very impressed.
Yes. Thank you, Heidi. I want to address your comment, and I really appreciate it. We do have a couple of additional resources just to think about. So the Recreation Division has sort of reorganized, coming back, thinking about creating a core customer engagement team. And that group is just getting launched, and they're going to be really key to Centro de Bienvenida moving forward. We're thinking about piloting Centro out in centers. So it's not always at HMT admin, so that there are pockets of it out in the community. So that might be future innovations that we do. And then also remember, when just before the pandemic, the board was very generous with us and expanded what had been a traditional 29-hour part-time financial aid position. And we were able to grow that position into a full-time position, with the idea that half of that time is spent out in the community doing that community engagement work, talking about financial aid, and doing that navigation work that Lulu was really talking about. And Juan is doing that. So he has a benchmark of at least 8 to 10 community meetings, community gatherings, public spaces that he is going to on top of Centro and on top of processing financial aid applications. So you'll see, I just did the KPIs for the budget for next year, and you'll see some of the beginning work of those results. And that's going to continue to pay even more dividends for us as we return to normal.
That's great. It's great to hear that, and those partnerships too. Yeah, keep up the great work, and I, fully in support of the work that you're doing. It's clear that it's making an impact.
Thank you.
Felicita?
Awesome work as always. I'm a broken record. But thank you. And I wish you could have seen my face the first time I heard of this. And I don't know if it was Holly or Doug that told me, but it was really moving to hear about the commitment and just the innovation and thoughtfulness and intentionality behind this. And I know, I'm guessing you're going to do a breakout at NRPA this year or maybe next year, because I think a lot of our peers in this work have a lot to learn from the two of you and the entire team. And I guess kind of echoing what Heidi said is I just want to make it very clear my full support for this commitment to equity, because equity isn't about fairness. That's not what we're talking about here. Equity means getting folks what they need. And this is living and breathing that, and making ourselves better. So thank you.
Alfredo?
Okay, we're climbing all over each other to give our commentary. I was so mad I couldn't jump out and be first. Yes. No, I feel like Bruno from Dancing with the Stars right now. I just want to stand up and emote because exactly what my peers have said here. This you're creating, you're helping to create families, households who will become hopefully, generational users and patrons of THPRD, where they may have had very, very limited access. Now somebody is able to have their kids in swim lessons regularly, and then, as these things layer on, then it becomes, they get curious about what else is out there, and so creating this touchstone for people, in addition to the safety component of helping people be more competent in the water wherever they go, for example, but and you're showing them that they're valued members of this community, and that there's a big organization here that really cares that they're involved in it, and that they participate, and we want them here. And so, yeah, I'm either going to cry for the second time in this meeting tonight or curse out of excitement, but bravo, thank you, keep it going. I'm curious to see what happens kind of season to season, and see how this things go as word of mouth spreads. Love the idea of exploring, extending to different locations, but keep running the playbook here. It looks like a good one. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, I echo everything that everybody's been said. It's just such a wonderful program. I did have a question, Holly or Lulu. Do you know, is this something that you foresee the families utilizing again, or are we able to, is it a matter of not knowing how to use our registration system that sometimes you can teach and then hopefully we can outreach to different people the next time, or is this something where we're keeping a list and that, once we've done a few times so that we can open opportunities? Because right, if it takes 40 minutes of family, and I assume as more and more people know about it, it's just going to become an even bigger program. But is language really the only barrier, or is it like navigating our system? Because even for me, I just learned this last year, like you type in every single class that you want, right, at 7:59, which most people don't know this. So whoever's listening today, you type in all your registration classes, you log it in and you refresh, and then every class that you put in automatically comes up so you can click, click, click. When before it used to be like, see, Alfredo didn't know. Before you have to be like, which child am I going to register for? But now you can, if you can do it all at one time, like that's like a trick, right? But not that many people know. So it's again an equity issue and those kinds of things. But like, are those kinds of things taught so that hopefully we can give all of these families the skills to continue on, minus like language obviously is I'm sure most of the barrier, but just to free up more space for you guys to help other families, I guess is my question.
Lulu, I think we would all love to hear your perspective on this one.
I love this question because it's so true. It's a question about language, but many times, because it's also financial aid applicants, sometimes they have the language, everything, but it's a question about technology. So it's a balance of both. And I do want to take this moment to highlight folks around staff members in all centers, how they have step-by-step instructions that they share on the phone, through email, in person, on how to register. So it does happen that folks come in and, oh, tell me a little bit more. How does this work? They feel comfortable and they're going to try it the next time on their own. It does happen, even if I'm not I'm primarily a Spanish speaker, but I give it a go. I understand it, and they go and do it on their own. Sometimes they come back with questions. So there is a lot of that. There's a little bit of a learning opportunities there, so we can serve more families, right? That's a great point. But I just want to do a shout out. I've seen it in all centers. I don't want to say names because it's many people. They have a strategy of sharing with people, so they start learning how to navigate registration.
Yeah.
There is definitely the education component, but we definitely have families that have come back to us year after year, and they just feel more comfortable and they feel welcomed. And, we love that. And we think that is just as important and just as valuable. And so you're never going to come to Centro and get pushed, right? You can learn how to do this yourself. We're never going to treat you that way, because we want you to keep coming back if you feel like this is a benefit and a value and it supports you. I'm with Lulu. It's a little bit of both.
Heidi, did you have another comment or?
Yeah, just a quick comment. I mean, and that's why I recommend support. Would love to see how we can have that educational piece about who we are, what we do, what you can participate in, what are the opportunities. Like that is a year-round, talking opportunity. That is Centro year-round. And it's really, part of this, and I'm speaking from like an educational registration perspective and financial aid, is this is a lot of information to take in 40 minutes. It's a lot. I work with people who I meet with them multiple times. And, and so I really, strong advocate for however we can expand and you're doing great work. So, but these are like ongoing conversations and things where we say, you give people the bit of information they need at that point in time. And what we're doing is either in one day or 1 week, giving them all this information. But if we can chunk that out and provide them with, a series or, year-round education in this, I not necessarily year-round, but you understand, like a week or 20 minutes or 40 minutes is just not enough. Just not. But kudos, amazing.
Thank you, Lulu and Holly.
Thank you.
Okay. So I think, is that all for general managers, I think?
Yes, we're going to move on to the second to the last agenda item. Permanent
New business.
addition update. And Aisha's got a great update here that she has a lot more patience than I do. It took a while to get here.
Well, I'll start by saying it's always challenging to follow Holly and Lulu, and they're talking about the great work that is being done through Centro. But I think I got a shot at really, drawing some attention here because I have restrooms to discuss, and who doesn't love a restroom? So I wanted to just kick off the conversation, and Gary and Matt are going to talk you through sort of where we're at with this process. But I just wanted to start by saying thank you, because it was members of your board that really, really latched onto this idea and ran with it and did some incredible outreach to our legislators in the area. We had a lot of meetings. We put a lot of people together to try and further this concept. We were successful in getting a few of our legislators to allocate some funds through this ARPA funding process to the district for restrooms. And so now we're trying to figure out how to do it in a very abbreviated time frame. So I wanted to start, of course, by thanking the our lobbyist, Kylie Bruno, for doing such great work for us on getting all these players together, scheduling these rapid fire meetings. But with that, I will turn it over to Gary and Matt, who will be talking to you about how we're going to build all of these restrooms in a very short period of time, jumping through lots and lots of regulatory hoops and working with supply chain issues and lots of fun things right now. So Gary and Matt, please come on forward.
All right, thank you, Aisha. Yeah, this is exciting. We've got a new bucket of money to use here. So we appreciate all the work the board put into this. But tonight, Matt and I are here to go over this project with you. We're going to provide an update to you on the permanent restrooms and the grant project, but we don't have any formal action being requested. We're just seeking support and input that we might get from the board to prepare for these projects. As Aisha mentioned, it's a pretty tight timeline to meet the grant criteria, but we've got a pretty good plan, and Matt and I have got it laid out. We're pretty comfortable. Well, not pretty. We know we're going to get it done. So next slide. So the district and Washington County were awarded funds through the American Rescue Plan Act, and more specifically, it's the Coronavirus State Fiscal Recovery Fund grant, where we were successful in getting the permanent restrooms. We've got 3 that we're going to be doing in total. We're evaluating 4 parks, looking at 4 of them for the 3. So we've got some criteria that we've been looking at when we selected our sites. We're looking at some of the bigger criteria: proximity to existing utilities. To be successful, we had to put together a pretty detailed cost estimate on this one. And utilities they're a big component of these permanent restrooms, as you can imagine. So we're trying to stay within about 30 yards is how we cost estimated these out. But we're also looking at maintenance and security access for the restrooms. That's how we got to these sites. And then another key component was minimal impact to the site and minimal natural resource impacts. And that had to do with the permitting requirements. If you start getting into some of these natural areas, the permit requirements extend the timeline. And this project's just got a shorter timeline. We don't have that benefit. So we anticipate developing 3 separate applications. The sites are located in different jurisdictions. We got some in Washington County, some in the city of Beaverton. They're all going to have to go through a land use process. You can see here the district's got $500,000 awarded to us for one of the restrooms, and then the county was awarded $1.4 million to install 2 restrooms. So the total was $1.9 million, which is great. And to meet the grant requirements, we need to have the restrooms installed by June of 2024. So that's about 28 months, which you can see there. So as I mentioned, Matt's going to be leading us on these projects. So what I'll do is I'll pass it over to him, and then we'll open it up to questions. So Matt, are you there? There you are.
Thank you, Gary, and good evening, everyone. Jessica, next slide, please. Okay, so staff has coordinated with district management and and sites within the district having the highest need for restroom additions while offering the greatest benefit to the community, and to assess the viability of each site. Staff is proposing 3 primary sites to receive restroom additions and has also identified 2 secondary sites as possible alternatives. The vicinity map here shows the 3 proposed primary locations indicated with orange dots and the 2 secondary locations indicated with blue dots. The final locations will be vetted through a planning and evaluation process. Next slide, please. So here's an aerial map of Hazeldale Park and a site photo of the location being proposed for the new restroom. Here we would replace the existing porta potties at this location with a permanent double stall restroom building. On the next slide, you'll see an aerial map of Schiffler Park, also with the site photo of the location being considered. Again, at this site, we would replace the existing porta potties at this location with a permanent double stall restroom building. On the next slide is an aerial view of Greenway Park just south of Hall Boulevard. At this site, we've proposed a primary location and a secondary location to be assessed in more detail. The site photo on the right shows the primary location being considered closer to Hall Boulevard. You can see Hall Boulevard there in the background. And the site photo on the left shows the secondary location about 400 feet south along the Fano Creek Trail. At this site, we'd install a single stall restroom building. Next slide, please. And here's an aerial map of A.M. Kennedy Park, which is the site of our secondary location being proposed. Here we would replace the existing porta potty next to the community garden with a permanent double stall restroom building if we developed this site. Next slide, please. So here we wanted to just include a good example of the permanent restrooms we're proposing. We have a lot of the style of restroom throughout the district. This restroom building comes pre-manufactured and pre-engineered as a kit that's assembled on site by the contractor. We can get a good value by selecting the restroom kit that we need and then procuring it through an established government cooperative purchasing program. What you see here is what we're referring to as a double stall restroom. This one is located just outside of Conestoga Rec and Aquatic Center. The double stall restroom has 2 separate accessible restrooms inside, each with their own lockable entry door. A single stall restroom would be very similar, but with only 1 accessible restroom inside and 1 door. The smaller restroom would be sufficient at a more remote site like Greenway Park, where we don't have sport fields or other high use amenities to create a larger demand. Next slide, please.
So I'll take over here, Matt. Here you can see our general schedule for the project. Staff is preparing to hire a consultant to initiate the project startup in the next month, and we do anticipate being back to the board in April seeking approval for the actual grant agreement that's between the district and the Oregon Department of Administration Services. We just met with them Friday, had a good meeting, and got a lot of good information from them on what we need to do next. But once we get the consultant on board, we'll start looking at the site assessments, start working on designs and community engagement through the spring of this year. We anticipate completing construction documents and permitting and all the restroom procurement by the end of the year 2023. And then we intend to bid for construction in early 2024 so that we are open and done by June of 2024 to meet the grant criteria. So we can go to the next slide. That concludes our presentation, and we'd be happy to answer any questions the board may have.
Heidi? Oh, Felista. Sorry, Felista was first.
Well, I feel like I should start with an apology since some of this is my fault. So sorry. But thank you so much for all your leadership. And Aisha was very generous in her praise, but the reality is Aisha was pretty critical to all this and was quickly able to answer questions and get us numbers and was at those meetings. So thank you, Aisha. This is great. I thank you so much. I know the timeline is far from ideal. I know that we're working within constraints that are demanded of us, and there's not really negotiation. And I know the whole concept of bathrooms came from our community visioning process. So first, thank you for all this and all the work over the next 2 years. And my question is essentially, so you showed 2 locations, Schiffler and I think it was AM Kennedy, that currently have bathrooms, not
I think they all have bathrooms or porta potties. They all have
Greenway
porta-
doesn't.
That's all they have. Yeah.
Well, regardless, I guess what I'm wondering is that in this commitment to more bathrooms, would you say those porta potties are going to go somewhere else, or would you say, like, I don't even know if my question makes sense, but I guess we know there's an increase in people utilizing our parks and rec, and so like we've heard from the community that there needs to be more bathrooms. So will there technically be more, or are they improved bathrooms? Does that make sense?
I think I understand what you're saying. So just to be clear, we do not own the porta potties. I think we own maybe one porta potty. The rest of the portable toilets are contracted services. And so those generally are put out in sites where we have high usage, or certainly where we're having programmed sports fields. Those are the highest priorities for that. So we could certainly look at locating these in different locations. That hadn't been a part of our contemplation just yet, but certainly we heard the same thing you heard through the visioning process, that more restrooms would be a great benefit. I think that the sites that we are showing you here may not necessarily be the sites, but you may recall we went through a very, very abbreviated process. This money was talked about, and we immediately went out and started having meetings with our legislators. And so while we were learning more about what this funding could be for, we were doing the best we could to identify the sites where we thought they could make the most sense. And so as Gary mentioned, we really were looking at kind of central areas. We were looking at also, where these legislators represented, because if they were interested in putting money towards these restrooms, they generally wanted to see that benefit their constituency. So that's part of the reason why these particular locations were selected. But
I love the sites, Aisha.
Yeah.
I apologize if coming across as criticism of the sites. For sure, Schiffler, my goodness, yes, absolutely. So many kiddos there. Yeah. And in such a stressful time, maybe I need to ask my question later and in a more thoughtful way. So let me think about what my question is.
No,
and
let me step in and help you, Felicia. She's just wanting, are we adding more bathrooms? Because we're just replacing it, but she wants the total number of bathrooms we have in the district to increase. So if we are going to replace a porta potty with a standing permanent bathroom, she's wanting to know, is that porta potty allotted going to go somewhere else to make sure that we have more bathrooms in the district, correct?
Well, yeah, maybe I can add too. The perspective would be we provide restrooms at all of our high activity sites and sites that have a healthy amount of permitted use. But I think if you lined up a bunch of public members and you offered them a permanent restroom versus a porta potty, I believe by definition you have provided a great deal of improvement. And in fact, I've heard it said many a time, many parents, we have no interest in using that porta potty.
Yeah. And I apologize. Thank you for the clarity. Thank you for this commitment. Thank you for the hustle. Thank you for all the work that's gone into this. We are having a party when these bathrooms open.
Nice.
Heidi.
Now I'm trying to think how to ask my questions. I would like to say thank you for addressing why the single versus the double, because I was like, Greenway Park, my goodness, we need a double there, not a single. And so my questions, and don't need a response at this point in time. I want to share some of my thoughts at this point in time. So maybe it should be questions and comments on the slide. And thinking about Greenway Park, because how extensive it is, I would have concerns about having a restroom right there at that corner of Hall, that access from the grocery store and the restaurant and the beginning of the disc golf, like, and maybe there's rationale behind having it there. So I'd love to hear that piece of it. I see there being far more other opportunities in Greenway to have a double restroom potentially, if not just a single, but I sort of cringed when I thought about a restroom right there at Hall. You just have to put that down there. Also, just also thinking, and maybe this is something that we already have a plan around, but I was also thinking about park patrol, because we know that restrooms in parks and other locations are used for illicit activity, or, and I don't want to make assumptions, but I also want to be mindful of our responsibility to provide a safe, welcoming park setting, and those closed doors sometimes don't don't manifest that. So I just want to put that out there as some of the things that I'm thinking about, and curious if those have been questions that we've also thought about as well.
Yes, I'm happy to address that too. This was an exercise in really doing our best to balance some competing interests, and we think that we ended up in the right spot. But we're going into a public engagement process where we can learn more and maybe make some adjustments. But with regard to locations near roadways and how things interact with the information we get from our safety services staff, having clear sight lines to the front door of those buildings is a really critical thing for us to try to minimize any bad acting, and also just to keep things secure. So
that's one reason why I would say, okay, they're at Hall.
Yeah.
It still makes me cringe, but I can understand that there too.
Yeah. So sight lines is a critical thing. And frankly, being closer to the road means you're closer to the utilities. And Gary mentioned the pretty dramatic cost increase you can find if you're farther away or closer. We were looking at another site along Greenway Trail a little further north and thought we had a great spot picked out, and it turned out we don't own the property. So site control is kind of a critical element for us as well. So yeah, just to generally answer your questions, we have gone over and turned over these sites quite a bit, but are open to learning more, and that's why things could change a little bit more from what you're seeing here tonight.
Okay, yeah, and I appreciate that. Thank you, and thank you for listening to that. And I think one of the beauties of this is us saving on those contracted services, and offering these. So thank you to my colleagues for all of your participation and getting this done. This is very exciting. I'd also say let's make sure that we have enough toilet paper. I'm just saying that, in the midst of the pandemic.
Yeah, Fredo.
Thank you all for this information, and thank you to my colleagues who were fighting for this before I joined this board. I am pro potty proliferation, so let's keep up the good work. I do know at the Greenway Park location that the Spanish immersion school next door, which doesn't have a playground, goes and utilizes the park there. And I happen to know personally one of the constituents of THPRD did not make it back to school on time and could have benefited from a restroom being built there about a month ago. But I really just think having these places for any and all to use for basic human dignity services is great. So just keep these things coming. Thank you for hustling and working hard to get them organized and ready to be built, and keep up the good work. Thank you.
Perfect. Yes, wonderful. I was part of these to talk to our legislators, and so it was definitely a whirlwind time. So thank you to the staff and stuff for putting everything together so quickly. I can't remember, Aisha, when we were doing that, were we proposed 3 bathrooms or were we only proposing 2 bathrooms back then?
We
Was it always 3?
no,
Yeah.
it was 2. You're correct.
Okay.
It was 2. That was based on, the rapidly evolving information. And so it's kind of reflected in what you see with the 1.4 million that was allocated to the county and then the 500,000. That 500,000 wasn't something we had contemplated, but it came in as a separate and direct to THPRD through the county or through the state, I'm sorry, that would come directly for our purposes. The 1.4 that we had originally been asking about was allocated to Washington County, and we expect that funding to be shifted to us to then carry out the construction of the 2 restrooms. But we got a $500,000 bonus, and when that came around, we were reached out to and asked, what would you do if you got this? And we said, another restroom. So that is that's what caused the number to go from 2 to 3. And certainly we weren't going to say no.
Yeah,
So
exactly. No, that's perfect.
how that happened.
So my question then is, because I know the spots were picked because of because of serving the constituents of the legislators but then if some of them is coming, did we explore any of north of 26 then for that additional third? Because I'm just thinking of like high utilized park, right? Like
Sure.
Pirate Park, that's like the park that is always busy and is kind of offset, and like it's along the trailway, so people come from all over, so it's not like they have direct access to bathrooms right there. Nature Park goes there, or Nature Mobile goes there all the time. We have like the sandbox right there. Was that considered? There's also like Somerset. Is it called Somerset? The new one, right? That's right next to our pool. Like when the pool is not open, I don't think we have bathrooms there that I can remember. So people don't have access there, and it's along 185th. So like that would be a high utilization area. And then like even Somerset Meadows, like that porta potty is gone, but it's right next to, like, it serves the neighborhood in the surrounding area, and people come from all over because it is like one of the only places that has that huge track that goes around it. Do we know, or do we explore north of 26 at all, or?
We absolutely did. And I think Pirate Park is a perfect example of some of those challenges that we faced in trying to figure out what were appropriate sites for these. Pirate Park is a great site, but utilities are not close. If you were to access the utilities in the road to the north, you'd have to cross a stream corridor and go up a hill. So yes, we absolutely looked at it. But, in thinking about how we get services to this site, the other part we have to think about is, we're not the ones. With porta potties, we have a service that goes out and services those sites. We would now have to find a way for our own staff to service those sites. And so sometimes that requires a vehicle, sometimes it doesn't. But in any case, usually being closer to the road is helpful because you got to lug that toilet paper up the hill somehow.
Yeah.
But we absolutely did look at Pirate Park, but there were just site constraints that were present there that made that very challenging. And so anything is possible, but in the budget that we were expecting to receive through this, we just did not think that we would be able to service that site with the funds that were being provided.
Okay. And then was Somerset, there's Somerset and Somerset. I call Somerset Meadows Circle Park because of the path. But was Somerset's our new one, right? With next to the pool. Does that have a bathroom site outside of the pool?
No, it does have that pool house, and there's a
Yeah.
restroom in there. I believe we did look at that one, Gary. I can't recall whether it was a grading issue because I think you'd be going uphill to the street in that case as well. But that was a little bit ago. Do you have a better recollection, Gary?
No, I don't. It's further than we would want to be from the road for sure, because of the utilities. But I wonder if that's this place. Maybe we can relocate a porta potty there. I mean, if we're looking at that, that's an idea. But Matt, I don't think phase 2 of Somerset West has the porta potty, or does it? Do you recall? I don't.
Well, we put a porta potty in the first phase there. There's a a screen enclosure and a porta potty there, just off the parking lot there. And that's Somerset West.
Somerset
side.
West,
There we
which
go.
is the one by the pool. Okay.
Yes.
So
But
we do have
somebody took the porta potty away from Somerset Meadows, just FYI. If
Well,
people were
Tia,
looking
those
for
of us down south will make sure that up north you get that porta potty.
yeah. Okay, perfect. So I do want to talk about the sites that we already have. So Evelyn Schiffler, definitely 100%. Hazeldale is great too. And I would, if we were trying to pick between AM Kennedy and Greenway, I would definitely say Greenway. I mean, I love AM Kennedy. We go all the time, but I feel like the traffic there is not as much as Greenway. And I feel like most of the people who do go there, besides when they do have practice or something like that, it's mostly those people that like live right there. It's never, whenever I go, which maybe, I mean, I go like every month. It's never like super busy. So I feel like that's like one of the one, and I could be wrong, but I don't feel like it's as busy of a park as Greenway or somewhere like that. So that would just be my 2 cents of voting. Okay. Are we done with the bathroom discussion? Anybody else have any updates? Does that give you guys enough of what you're looking for as far as what you needed from us?
Yes, it does. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll be back next month.
Great, yay. Okay, sounds great. Let's see. I need to go back to I think we just have one thing left, right? And I think that's Heidi's thing. I don't have my my
You want me to
PowerPoint.
just go ahead and step in?
Yeah, you want to?
Yes,
Sorry.
absolutely. So let me just make sure I'm reading this right. The next agenda item is THPRD Board of Directors endorsement of Beaverton School District Measure 34-313. We can read through our statement if you'd like, and or I can read through the statement however you want to go about doing it. Happy to, and then we'll have some action. What would you like? I can't see everybody. Sorry, I'm flipping between things.
This is Felicita. I don't know that we need to read it.
Okay.
I'm happy to make a motion. I'm excited to support this. I appreciate the work that went into it.
Yeah, and I think the only thing would be just for the record, for those who are unaware of what the bond measure is, maybe we can just give a little brief snippet of what is written. So those who are just listening in or reading transcription at any point in time, maybe just each of us take a couple minutes to speak to what's written, possibly. I want to make sure it's accessible for folks who don't have the agenda or our statement. So how about I go ahead and just start real quick, and just mention that if I can find it, sorry team, somebody can take it from here. So we, the Charlton Hills Park and Recreation Board of Directors, value our longstanding extraordinary relationship with Beaverton School District, and we are proud to serve our THPRD community through our shared resources, programming, facilities, and sites within the district. Measure 34-313 will be on the May 2022 ballot for Beaverton schools. If approved, this will raise funds for Beaverton school classroom improvements, including air ventilation and earthquake safety upgrades, covered outdoor play areas, security upgrades, replacement computers and school buses, and other repairs and updates. It would also rebuild Beaverton High School and Raleigh Hills Elementary. These are significant improvements that we know our community will benefit from and need. Therefore, we, the Tualatin Hills Park and Recreation District Board of Directors, hereby support and endorse Measure 34-313 for Beaverton schools this May, and we encourage our community members to vote yes on Measure 34-313 in May to further provide for the safe and healthy environments needed for high quality education. And with that, Felicita, let's take that motion.
Yes, the Beaverton School District is a critical partner and we serve the exact same families. So I move that the Board of Directors endorse Beaverton School District Measure 34-313.
This is Alfredo. I'd love to second that.
And Jessica can call vote.
Heidi Edwards,
Yes.
Alfredo Moreno,
Yes.
Felisa de Monteblanco,
Yes.
Tia Pink.
Definitely yes. All right, I think that's it. Great. Did I miss
You
anything? Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you everybody for being here tonight for this long night. Have a great night. Thanks.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Team.